very formative interaction that I had was with one of my friends, and he was very enamored with his mother's vegetarian pasta sauce. And he said, nobody makes it the way my mom makes it. It's so good, you need to come and taste it. And then the next time he came to my house, I thought that it would be really cool to reproduce it for him. And he tasted it and he went, did she give you the recipe? And I said, no, I just tasted it and reproduced it. Can't everybody do that? And he said, no. And I said, oh, I was about 17. And that's when I started to explore that I could possibly taste things more intensely than other people. So when you're a super taster, you have one of two things. You hate food because it's too overwhelming, or you love food because you just love the nuance. And I really love food. So my love of cooking is sort of steeped in my love of food, but the vehicle for me actually becoming as proficient at cooking as I am was definitely a necessity because I had to feed myself, and sometimes my mom. It started with very basic things: toast, eggs, hot dogs. I would come home from school very young, maybe 7 or 8 years old. I already had a key, and I was an only child. So I was by myself for many, many hours, and I had to learn how to prepare my own foods. This was the 80s. We didn't even have a microwave. Because my parents worked, I spent a lot of time with my bubby, a lot of Jewish values into me. She kept a somewhat kosher home, and she talked to me about Bible stories. My Holocaust education started when I was like 2, which is intense. You know, a lot of people now would say probably you shouldn't talk to a 2-year-old about the Holocaust, but she was a first generation. My formative years were spent entrenched in that Jewish culture. She took me to synagogue, and I learned a lot about being a Jewish woman from her. She lit candles every Friday. I moved here in order to be with my partner. And when I got off the plane, it was a bit of culture shock food-wise, period, because Montreal has some of the best food in the world. And when I got off the plane here, I said to him, Moshe, where's the food? Where are the bagels? This isn't a bagel, where are the bagels? And he said, sweetheart, I'm sorry. I can show you ocean and mountains and beaches and wildlife, but there are no bagels here. And I went, what? And that got us to start talking about possibly opening a bakery or a restaurant. Kosher is very complex. In a nutshell, it's a set of dietary laws that have to be followed religiously. So there's meat, which has to be very carefully observed. There's milk that, depending on how religious you are, also has to be very carefully observed. And then there's parv, which is neither, which is what we do. Parv is like the safest category. It's everything that's not milk or meat: grains, vegetables, fruit. So that is the simplest way I can put it. There are way more layers to it. For the community at large, I make really, really good baked goods, and they like them. For about 30% of our clientele, I'm the only person who can make the bread for their table. I'm the only person who can make that cake for their son's bar mitzvah. Where I grew up, it exists everywhere. You don't think about it. It's really important to me that we have at least one place where people can go and get those things that they need. I took it on because of that reason, and I continue to do it because of that reason.
Really good.
I had this lovely customer in Nanaimo that we delivered to. I said, what made you want to challah? And he said, I'm from Toronto, and I've missed the food so much. He says, I am not of the faith, but I am of the food. And I said, oh my gosh, that is a tagline, number 1. Thank you so much. And number 2, that is exactly how I feel about Jewish food of all types, because you don't have to be of the faith to be of the food. These are the things that keep me going when I get up in the morning and don't want to roll 1,000 bagels.